Hi BookTube! Today I'm here to talk about ways to make reading a habit. So I'm just gonna start off with what are some of my own personal reading habits. What are ways that I make sure that I read. So these are some of the habits I've developed over the years that help me to make reading a priority in my life. First of all is keeping books in multiple places. This first habit is actually quite easy, and that's to just keep books where you're likely to read. I know I don't just read in one place. Sometimes I read in my living room, sometimes I read in my bedroom, sometimes I read outside. I'm not going to keep books outside because rain and wind and snow and sleet and all that stuff will wreck books, but to get a general idea, I don't just read in one place, and I think that's true for a lot of people. So what I tend to do is leave books in those locations where I'm likely to read. So I have books in my living room, I have books in my bedroom, I have books that I can stick in a pocket and carry around with me. I even have audiobooks in the car. What this helps to do is accommodate my laziness. So there's some times when I just get home from work and I just want to slump on the couch. And if the books that I'm reading are on the shelf or in my bedroom, then I'm not likely to get up and reach for those books. But if I keep a book by the couch in the living room, when I come home after work and just sit down, it's there and I can just read it. Now, yes, this is accommodating a bad habit of being lazy and not getting up and getting books, but you gotta work around your flaws and all that stuff, right? Yeah, and keeping books in my bedroom too is another thing. When I go to lie down at night, I don't have to get up again to say, oh no, I forgot the book that I want to read. In the living room, it's, you know, and do the whole waking up and trying to get settled and comfortable again in the bedroom. It helps with that. Reading more than one book at a time, and this is actually fairly recent development in my reading habits, and I find that it actually has many benefits. I was really hesitant to do it at first, but once I started doing it, I loved it. One of the benefits is that it avoids the thing that is most likely to disrupt your reading habit, which is the dreaded reading slump, where you just don't want to read anything. I found that when I was reading one book at a time, and I got to that one book where I wasn't too enthused to read the book. I wanted to keep reading it, but you know, I didn't want to spend a lot of time with it for whatever reason. It was kind of harder to get through. Is I'd be more hesitant to read, and it would take me longer to get to the next book. Whereas when I started reading multiple books at a time, I had more choices of what to read, and I was more likely to pick up a book, because even if I was having trouble with book A, I could pick up book B, and even if I was having trouble with book A and B, I could pick up book C, and I could still work my way through book A and B, but there are times when, you know, you're too tired or don't have the energy to engage with certain texts and you want something a little easier, you pick up a different book that could be more engaging. So I try to do that with my TBRs, my to-be reads, the books that I'm currently reading. You know, if I'll know I'll have a harder book to read, that sometimes I won't have the energy or don't want to engage with it as much, so I pick up something easier to read. And that reading multiple books helps maintain the reading habit and avoiding slumps. The third way I make reading a habit is to make reading a surprise. And this isn't for everyone. This is something that I have been doing for almost 3 years now, almost. And that's wrapping my books. And because it makes me more excited to read books that have been on my shelves for a long time. Now, I'm not one of those people who is aiming at getting my TBR down and to reading books that have been on my shelf a long time. So there are books on my shelves that I have owned for probably like 15 years that I haven't read, and they're wrapped. And what this does is it avoids that kind of new shiny book feeling. Like, you know, when you get a new book and you immediately want to read it. So you're ignoring the books that have been on your shelves for like 10 years. You know, and you should probably get to those before you get to the new books. What wrapping does is that it makes things random, so I don't really have a choice. So I pick a book off. It could be a book that I bought 5 years ago. It could be a book about yesterday. You know, who knows? And it makes it a surprise too, because it feels like a new book. You know, I'm opening up a new present and reading this book, and you know, getting surprised by books that have been on my shelves for a long time. And it makes me eager to get to the next book, because I'm like, oh, I want to unwrap a new book. I want to see, you know, this new book, which isn't necessarily new, but is new in the sense that, you know, I don't see it anymore. I don't see the titles on my shelf anymore. I don't remember 100% of the books on my shelf. So each time I unwrap it, it's kind of a new surprise. Number 4 is audiobooks. And I think audiobooks are a great way to make reading a habit because it allows you to multitask. So you can read when you otherwise can't or wouldn't normally read. So for example, I mostly listen to audiobooks while driving. I do a lot of driving for work. And I find even though sometimes my drives are only like 5, 10, 15 minutes, getting those little bits of reading in through an audiobook really help me read more. And this is a way to avoid the common excuse that you're too busy to read. Because, you know, we all need to clean, we all need to cook. I would say we all need to commute, but current circumstances have shown that we don't all need to commute, but a lot of us still commute. You know, whether even walking to appointments, taking the bus to school, driving to work. During those times, you can listen to a book. And I find that's a really great way to increase your reading habits. Number 5, keep your TBR visual. And visible, I guess would be the proper word. So if you don't know, TBR is to be read, and the way that I use TBR is books that are on my immediate radar. So books that I plan on reading within that month, or even books that I'm currently reading. And this is one habit that definitely helps remind me to read. So I keep the books I'm currently reading in a place where I know I'm going to see them every day. So I'm going to keep them on the coffee table. I'm going to keep it on my bedside table. I'm going to keep it on my desk. I'm going to keep it on the bed at times. For me, keeping books on a shelf is not a good idea because my shelves are there's a lot of them. It takes up the whole wall, and they're such a part of my living space that, you know, there's things I see every day, so I don't see it, if you know what I mean. It doesn't really register in my mind all the time. It's just kind of, oh yeah, that's always there. You know, I don't really know, like, it's what's on there specifically. So if I put my TBR up there, I'm not gonna notice it, is what I'm saying. And it's engulfed by all the other books as well. So keeping the books in a very obvious place helps visually remind me that I have something to read and I should be reading that. The last one, number 6, is to join an online book community. I know when I joined BookTube, I was maybe before that reading 1 or 2 books a month, and it immediately jumped. It's a great way to encourage yourself to read more, and, you know, finding other people who read. I find that being a community that centers around books and expects me to talk about books encourage me to read more, so that I have something to talk about, so that I have something to share, so that I can talk with other people about books. And you don't have to join BookTube. I know it's not for everyone if you aren't comfortable being on camera, but there's also book blogging, there's book Twitter, there's Bookstagram. You can just even be a part of BookTube in the comments. You can be a commenter and a viewer. Or if you are that type of person, you can join an in real life book club. You know, there's different options to find a book community that will encourage you to read, that kind of hits on that good kind of peer pressure to read more. So those are the habits I've implemented, and then there's some habits that I would like to implement but I'm kind of wary on, and I'm going to share them with you. Maybe you could encourage me to do them or discourage me to do them, who knows. So first off, I like the idea of scheduling a set amount of time each day to read. Right now it kind of just depends on the actual habit that I've spent decades developing to just pick up a book when I feel like reading. And I'm one of those lucky people who feels like reading a lot of the time, so I have that going for me. I don't actually have a specific time of day where I read or a goal of reading for a set amount of time each day. I like the idea of kind of like the structured schedule, and I've tried to do that. I've had many attempts at doing the structured schedule, but I've never really succeeded in doing it for more than like 3-4 days in a row, because life happens and I don't want to decline to do the spontaneous things that happen because, you know, someone says, oh, let's go out, you know, shopping or something, but my schedule says I have to read at this time, so I can't go out and spend time with you, kind of thing, you know. Like I can't fit that kind of spontaneous stuff with the scheduled stuff. So perhaps there is a way I can work around this if I really sit down and think about it. Like kind of setting time on a day-to-day basis. So maybe while at work thinking, okay, I don't have anything planned this evening. I don't think there's anything spontaneous that's going to happen, so I'll read from 6 to 8. That could be, you know, something that I could do. This could, however, backlash, and it could make me feel that reading is an obligation, and I don't like having things that I do for enjoyment feel like an obligation. I hate obligations in general. So yeah. Another thing is to join in on more readathons and buddy reads. It's a great way to make reading a habit because, again, there's that good kind of peer pressure. There's kind of fun challenges and things to do, and there's lots of different types of readathons, from kind of simple and straightforward and short to long and complicated with all different setups and everything that you could do. It's hard for me to join readathons because of my wrap books project, so I can't pick out a specific genre. I can't pick out a book based on a certain color. So that's kind of something that I'm struggling with. But, you know, those are ways to do it. So what are some things that you do to make reading a habit? Let's talk in the comments, and maybe we can exchange ideas and help each other out. Thank you for watching.